The Never Quit Podcast, sponsored and hosted by Quotes Jungle, with your host, Quote.
Welcome to another edition of the Never Quit Podcast. In the studio live for this episode with me, I have Tony Lindsay Jr. What's up, T?
How you doing, Q?
Oh, same old, man. Let's get right to it. You're a Denver native, correct?
Yep, born and raised.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's make this like a 3-minute autobiography.
Grew up on the east side of Denver. In high school, my mom and dad got divorced, so mom was living in Park Hill. Dad was on the east side, so I was between the two. Sports family. So I've been playing sports since I was 5 years old. A little bit of everything. And so background is uncle, dad, grandparents, all were athletes. My grandparents were both one was in the Navy, one was in the Army. They went off there, came back, got my dad involved in the sports, got my uncle involved in the sports. And from there on, that's where me and my brothers came along. And so just really proud of the way they brought us up and had us playing sports and being responsible.
For those not familiar, make the world familiar with the Lindsay household, meaning football background, uncles, father, etc. up to now.
Before I get to myself, you got to understand where I came from. And so like I said earlier, grandparents, grandfathers, both military, very structured, organized. And back then, it was like either you're working or you're playing some sports. And for my uncle, for my dad, it was the sports. They had to work really, really hard, man. And sometimes father wasn't in the picture. And so they had to kind of not only be the father, the big brothers, but they had to take care of the schoolwork and get into sports and do the extra stuff that a lot of people were already getting. They vowed to not let it get that way for their sons. And so growing up, if it wasn't my uncle, if it wasn't my dad pushing us, then it was somebody else that they had that they knew that was pushing us. But they were mostly in the picture. And like I said, they would take turns. Uncle with karate, and then dad, we got to go play some football. We're running track, and so they really made sure that we had our head on straight. They didn't force us to play it, but they got us to like it. And the more we liked it, the more they pushed and gave us that edge as far as football and even in the classroom, just having that edge to push ourselves even more when it was time when they were out the picture.
What about being a football high school coach drives you?
Giving back to the kids, what I didn't have, what I didn't get. And I got a lot, but things have changed, and things are constantly revolving around, the way that we play, but they're adding more each time. And so I want to give all I can to the kids I work with so that they can compete with the kids that get everything they're getting.
What are some of the coaches or people that inspired you to be into football?
I'll start with my dad and my uncle, but then from there, man, I've had some great men in my life that have inspired me and impacted me in different ways. I mean, I was a pastor at my church. Coach Lucas, man, going into high school, I wanted to play in the NFL. I wanted to go to college, but I didn't really want to do it. It was just like, if it happens, it happens. I'm good. Well, this man, Coach Lucas, comes into play my junior year, and his attitude, where he came from, how he talked to us, how he inspired us, how he motivated us to be better than what we were, really got me thinking, man, I can really do this. I can really go on and play college ball, and if lucky, I can go play NFL. And so, man, he was very impactful on me and a lot of other people. And when you have more people like, man, all the coaches that I had those years were great, and they just pushed and pushed and pushed, but it was in a way to where we weren't going to push back. We weren't going to quit. It was more of, I'm going to show you, coach. You're pushing me, so I'm going to show you I can do this. And so it really got a lot out of me. Coaches in college, Coach Bob Simmons, who was at CU and then went over to Oklahoma State when he didn't get the job, trusted in me a lot and ended up bringing me up there to try to start something at that school, but very impactful in my life. And then my grandparents, I got to go back to my grandpas. They did a really good job with me, with my dad, with my uncle, and just putting us in the place we needed to be.
For those who aren't familiar, why don't you tell them where you played college football at and what position you played?
Went to Oklahoma State University. I was a quarterback there. I got a full ride scholarship to play there, and I was there from 96 to 01.
What is the most complex thing about the quarterback position that you feel people take for granted?
I don't think it's more so about what you can do. It's about your thought process. You got to know what everybody's doing on the field. You got to be really smart. You got to know how to adjust. And mentally, you got to be tough. It is a mental position. And if you can't handle that, you got to find another position to play. So it's more about the smarts, more about what's going on around you, who's doing what. And then from there, you let your athleticism take over.
You're a teacher now, correct?
Correct.
Talk about what that's like and what you teach.
I've been teaching over 15 years, man. I started out as a second grade teacher, and that wasn't for me. It felt more like babysitting. The kids were really good, but it's just like they're too young. From there, I moved up to fifth grade. Been teaching fifth grade ever since, man. And so I was at Laurie Elementary and had been there for the last 14 years. And then this year, I've moved over to Hallett Academy. Love it. I look forward to waking up every morning to see what the kids are going to say, what they're going to do, how they're acting, what they're going to pick up and learn. Man, I enjoy it.
What's your favorite thing that you miss about playing football?
Probably the camaraderie, meeting new people, working together. The teamwork thing is big with me. And then having fun. I was blessed with the athletic ability to play. And so why not play? And so that I would say that.
How would people describe you?
Quiet, nonchalant, worrying more about others. So I would say selfless. Gosh, what else? Athletic, of course. That's about it. I mean, I would have to talk to them. But those are the first words that come to mind.
How do you think people perceive you when they see you?
I think as I was playing, it was two different ways. It's either the guy that can play that's very humble, or it's the jock that's cocky to himself and thinks he's better than everybody else.
What are you good at other than football?
I think just working with people. I think I'm a people person, and I'm not an extrovert, introvert, but my ability to work with anybody and everybody, I think I'm really good at that, man. And it doesn't take much to get me going, to get me working and helping and everything I can do. So I would go there.
You're stuck on the island for a week. Name those 3 people that you're stuck with.
My wife and my 2 kids.
What are the biggest challenges that you faced in coaching thus far?
Lack of resources. It's huge. They give you the job. They expect you to get the kids in a certain position to compete, but everybody else around you has everything they need, and you don't. So trying to get the resources is hard. The attitude. I think growing up, we had a different attitude than this generation does. We used to really have to work for stuff. And this generation here they're spoiled. I mean, I spoiled my own kids too, but they don't know what it really takes to get where you want to be. They think it's just handed to you. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of kids out there that work their asses off. But it's not second nature. It's not normal. You have to pull it and force it and drag it out of them instead of, hey, I'm going to do this on my own. You don't have to tell me anything. You can't tell me anything. I'm going to do it. I'm going to show you and everybody else who thinks I can't do it. And so I think that mentality, that attitude that they have now is what we're trying to instill in them. And it's difficult. I mean, just as a resource, is now you got to try to get this kid to believe what you believe. There's a saying, and we all say it that played at TJ, you're a reflection of your coach. You're a reflection of your coach. And so if you go out there and you half-ass do things, then that falls back on us. And that's not how we are. And so what we try to instill in the kids is, you know what, we may not have these resources. We may not be able to compete at this level. But I tell you what, after they get done playing against us or competing against us, they're going to know who we are.
If you could change anything about high school sports, what would you change?
Equity, big-time equity, across the board. I think if one district is doing something, I think all of them should do something. And to each its own. I mean, different districts are ran different. But I think if you're going to do something right, then be fair by everybody. I don't think that's the case.
If you weren't teaching and you weren't playing football professionally or even recreationally, what would you be doing?
You know what? The last couple of years of college, man, I really got into finance. And I wish I would have got into it a lot earlier. But finance and investing and stock, I think I would have did that. I mean, I caught on to it, and it was easy, it was fun, it was interesting, time consuming, but it would be something I would be willing to do. if I would have got into it before I started teaching. I would say any type of finance I would be doing.
I know you played with a lot of great players. Name me 3 of your favorite players to play with.
No matter what sport?
It don't matter what sport.
Dang, there's been a lot. And it doesn't matter what level.
Doesn't matter what level.
I'm going to have to say my brother as one. So Gabe Lindsay. Dang, that's really hard. Because I get tied up into, man, I got friendships and, man, we're all family. Dang, this is hard. Quinn Savage, man, I got to know him when he moved here from California. We were like one of the first families that kind of blended with his and showed him the ropes and where everything was. But to play with him on the basketball court, man, we were 7th and 8th graders. And to start playing with him and to see what he was able to do and the leadership he had, man, that was some cool stuff. It brought me to another place when it came to looking at players a different way. So Q Savage will be the second one. Oh gosh, dang, this is real hard. Can I just say the whole team?
You could say the whole team if you want.
Let's just say the whole TJ family, man.
Okay, perfect. For those not familiar with Thomas Jefferson High School here in Denver, Colorado, me and Tony went to the same high school. Give the people a little bit of history of how many athletes we had go Division I or even college football after high school so people can be familiar.
So Coach Lucas came into play. That would have been 94, I want to say. 94, Coach Lucas came into TJ, took over the football program. That first year he took over, we had three go D1. That was my junior year. We had 3 or 4 go D1. And then a couple others go Division II and other places, JUCOs. My senior year came, and we had another 5 or 6 go to college. Now, I know for sure 5 of us went D1, maybe more than that. But we had a handful. The year after, I think we damn near doubled that. We doubled that, if I'm not mistaken. How many you were with that class?
We doubled.
Doubled that. So they're up to 10 or 11, man. And so you got to think in the span of those 3 years, that's 20-some kids that have gone not just to college to play football, but to Division I colleges. That's hard to do. It's hard to do. From one school and from Colorado, they still don't look at Colorado as a football state. And they didn't then, even when we were sending everybody out. But they saw what kind of talent our school had. So there's 20-something right there. And the following year, literally, I want to say 20.
I believe it was.
I wanted Gabe and Roger Ross and Brandon Pryor in that class right there. I want to say they were close to 20 kids that went to play college football. And more than half of them went D1. So, man, we were known for sending the kids out. And everybody's wondering, well, how the hell didn't you guys take state? You guys got all these kids going to D1s, and they're not just going to D1s and being there. Everybody's playing. Everybody's playing. So we get redshirted. Some of us have played our freshman year, but the ones that got redshirted, that next year, we're all playing. You see this person on TV and that person on TV, and you're like, damn, this is a trip. So that TJ family, man, was, and shout out again to Coach Lucas, because he put together a program that was like no other.
Coach Oliver Lucas is a savage.
Savage. All we had to do was just adjust to what he wanted us to do and work hard. That's all he asked of us to do, just work hard, and adjust, make adjustments, and do what we're supposed to do. And we did that, and we got where we wanted to be. So, I mean, it was a gang of people, man. It was shout out to the TJ family.
Who was your biggest rival in high school?
I had to be the Bellows. Had to be the Bellows. And, that, that's me just going into high school, period. Now, I had an older cousin that played for Thomas Jefferson, so I would go and watch him play, and that was a rival. And I would watch them play. They would sometimes play twice a year. And then they played in the state championship game, which kind of just won me over, like, man, that's where I'm going to school. I'm going to TJ. And from that point on, it's like I looked at Montbello, it's like, yeah, that's a school. They're good, but that's the rival school right there. And then even going in, playing as a freshman, I think that was my first game as a freshman. I got thrown in on varsity. I wasn't expecting. I was a freshman. I wasn't big enough, strong enough, fast enough. quarterback got hurt, and I'm the next man up. I didn't even know what the hell I was doing, to tell you the truth. Some of the plays, I don't know what I was calling or running. But just to be out there and just to be playing that rival, and it was good every time we went against. And it didn't matter what the sport was, whether it was football, whether it was basketball. Definitely running track because we wanted to compete with them. Now, they were head over heels when it came to us. But any chance we got, we was trying to go after them. So the Bellows, I have to say the Bellows, man.
Who was your biggest rival in college football?
OU, Oklahoma Sooners, Boomer Sooner.
What was your record against them while you were there?
In the games I actually played in, I was 2-1. My whole stint there at Oklahoma State was 2-2.
Let's go back to high school.
Yep.
What colleges were you being recruited by?
North Carolina came in, heavily recruited me. Oklahoma State, of course. Nebraska came in late, but they came in. Big guns, too. Washington State, Arizona, Kansas, CSU a little bit. It was weird when it came to our local schools. That's a whole different story. I think that was about it. I'm trying to remember who else. UCLA came in for a little bit, but I know those for sure. There may have been a couple other ones, but those are the ones that really made a push.
You were never recruited by CU?
Never.
I'm pulling up a screen for him. I got some footage running, and I'm going to let him narrate what happened in this game. 1997, Oklahoma State versus Colorado football. Go ahead, T.
Oh, my goodness.
Right now, we're just watching the thing. Watching.
Been a minute.
Been a minute.
Golly, I haven't seen this in a little while.
All right, here we go. You don't got to do play-by-play. Just tell us what you see.
Oh, man. Dang. I see me running on Colorado. I made it a point to do whatever I can to embarrass them. And so any opportunity I got to run or pass and kill them with it, I was on it, man. And so it clicked, too. There was not a bad moment. There was one. But other than that, man, it was like it was everything was on. It was perfect setting, perfect night. It was on TV, so everybody here in Colorado got to see it. It was exactly what I wanted. So right now we're just looking at some clips. I'm running on them and throwing on them, and damn, they can't stop us. It was kind of like that.
Who was number 85?
Number 85, Alonzo Mays, man. He was an All-American tight end who ended up getting drafted by Chicago Bears in the first round. There's another run. And every time I run, it just felt like I was running for so many yards, man. 20 a pop, 30 a pop.
Uh-oh.
Quarterback sneak, tried to go over the top. My man caught me right in the head.
6 points.
Still got it. Another run. Just gashing them. I think I ended up with 100-plus yards that game. And I'm the quarterback.
Was this game personal?
Oh, very. And they knew that. I think earlier in the week, 15-10 KDKO got a hold of me, man, and I'm trying to figure out how to get a hold of me on my dorm phone. But I'm talking to them, and they asked me about the game. And they asked me the same question. This is personal. I said, this is as personal as it can get. Number one, I mean, you got to understand, too, the background behind this game. Coach Simmons, who was our head coach, he was up for the job the year before I came out of school. Oh, they got me talking. He was up for the job. Instead of giving it to him, it was highly recommended by Coach McCartney to Coach Simmons take that job. Instead of giving it to Coach Simmons, they gave it to Rick Neuheisel. And Rick Neuheisel, he knows the stuff. He's a good guy, good recruiter. But we all thought it was going to go to Coach Simmons, and it didn't. So he took over the Oklahoma State job. As he's taking that over, he's bringing kids from Colorado. So I'm not the only one there. There's like 4 of us there. And every year he's just plucking people from Colorado that probably should have been at Colorado. And so for me to have the opportunity to play against a team that I actually wanted to play for, that's what I wanted to play for. Going through high school and seeing what they did and where they were at that time and what they did in the early 90s, man, and in the late 80s with the championships and stuff, that was where I wanted to go, was right here in my backyard. And not one coach reached out to me other than Bob Simmons when he was on the staff, about playing here in my hometown. And so definitely took this personal. We got to victory, and I'm going to live that up until the day I die.
Tell me about some times in life that were rough, if you're willing to share, where you wanted to quit and you didn't quit. It can be in real life, football, or a mixture of the two.
My parents' divorce. That happened my freshman year, man. It was hard, man. If anybody knows my parents, and even if you see them now, you're like, dang, they're divorced, really? I can't tell. But watching them have to go through it, and then having to deal with it myself, along with my siblings, that was tough, man. And at that time, it was like, okay, everything that I was doing, that I was having fun doing, all the sports that I was playing, I was done. It was a rough patch, and I could care less about playing any sport, about going anywhere, about hanging out with anybody, almost to the point where I would just want to rebel. Just mad at the situation, mad at my parents. Just at that, I didn't care. And so I would say that was the time where I was like, man, I don't like this. I'm going to quit everything I'm doing, not because I can't do it, because I want to make it about me. Because right now it's about my parents, and what they're doing is hurting me. So let me see if I can get the attention back on me. And so I could say that's one of the times where I'm like, yeah, forget it. I'm done. And then I don't think it was really a quitting moment, but it was like, I don't know if I can handle this. I would have to say just going to college. Now, I knew what to expect, and I had plenty of talks, and I talked to people that were there and been there and done that, my father and my uncle and then coaches. And but to actually go through it, you got to understand where I went to school, too. So I'm in Oklahoma, and I'm not near a city. I'm out in the country. We don't have a lot there. It's not like a downtown. We got one music store that sells CDs and some tapes and different things. There's no mall. If you're not playing football, if you're not busy playing a sport to take away from the things that town does not have, man, it's depressing. And I hope it's changed now. And it changed as we were playing, as it grew on me. But going there that first year and then having to deal, me being a city kid and coming from what we have here to going to something like that, man, that was tough. I was on the phone as much as I could with mom and dad and everybody else just to kind of get that homesickness away. So I wouldn't say it was more of a quit moment, but it was more of a, I don't know if I want to do this. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you. What would you say is your biggest take that you use and you learn from college football that you use in your own coaching?
Effort. You can never work enough. It's always getting better. You got to get better at whatever you're doing. If it's playing checkers, you got to get better. If you're not getting better, that's not going to help you. And so pushing yourself to the limit to get better than what you were the day before.
Babe Ruth once said, it's hard to be a person that never gives up. Describe a couple of people or students or athletes that came to mind when I said that.
The male figures in my life, grandparents. And I keep on going back to these two because they just have that much impact on what I do. My dad and my uncle. For everybody that knows who they are, know of them, has met them, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. You talk about pushing, you talking about effort, you talk about not giving a damn. It's them, and it's all out of love. I mean, them men love like no other. It may be shown in a different way, but that way has taught us, me, my cousins, how to carry ourselves as men. And, to this day, man, I thank them every time I can get a chance just for making me who I am. But, gosh, them two, you talk about push, you talk about some effort, you talk about not quitting, those two all the way.
What would you say is a misconception of some people that hear the Lindsay name and your style of coaching between your father, your brother? Air that out.
Arrogant, cocky. They think they can do whatever they want. They think they're better than everybody else. But again, understand what we're having to deal with. Understand where we're coming from. Understand what we're trying to do. And I don't know if it's a pride thing between those folks that say that, those naysayers, or if it's they weren't able to accomplish it and they're mad that we have. And instead of coming together and giving props where due, there's always some pushback. A lot of pushback from people we know and are pretty close with, we grew up with. And it's like, what? What have we ever done to you guys? All we're doing is trying to take care of what we're supposed to do. You guys can do whatever you want. You can do it how you want. And if you're doing a great job, if you're doing what you need to do, you're not worried about us. And you know what? Just like we want congratulations, just like we want some, good job, way to go, man, we give it out too. You'd be surprised how much we cheer on other people, other sports, other districts, other groups of people that we work with or not even work with. Man, we show love. We show a lot of love. And that's one thing I think they don't know or they take for granted. They don't, man, we show a lot of love anytime. And there's no shame in the game. We're not hiding from anybody. We don't sugarcoat anything. And I think that's kind of what it is too. Nobody's afraid to tell anybody anything. And if you don't like it, you just don't like it, period. And we can take that. You don't have anything to say with us, then that's your opinion. Then go ahead. But I'm too good. They're too good for everybody. I'm trying to still figure out where they're getting that from. It's never been about that. All it's ever been about is those kids, ever. And so I'm not one to speak up on it too much. I mean, my siblings do and my family does. They have plenty to say. But coming from me personally, it's just like it's about the kids.
Talk about how important fatherhood is and how that moved into coaching. Maybe that's where they miss that connection.
It's that too. A lot of kids don't have that father figure. They don't have that dad in life or the uncle or the grandfather in their life that's going to do the things that need to be done to help this gentleman grow into a young man, a young, responsible, accountable man that's going to be successful in life, whatever he does. And we push them. And we push them as much as we can. And sometimes you don't like it, but it's not going to feel good. But I tell you what, after you go through it, you're going to know how to push yourself to that point, to what you want to do. And you're not going to have to worry about anybody because you know where to push yourself and you know where you can go with it. And so, like I said, man, it's all about the kids. We are all about the kids and what we can do to help the kids. And we try to help them as much as we can.
If you can go back to any year, what year would you go back to and why?
Redshirt junior year in college. Injuries. Man, injuries are a mug. First injury that really just sat me down. If I could go back, not to say that it wouldn't happen again, because you just never know when or how or what it's going to do to you, how it's going to affect you or your life. Going back to that year in preparation up until that point, I think it may have helped me. But I think from that point on, my years, they weren't as good as what they were before. Kind of went downhill from there. And I wish I could have just had a chance those next 2 years to show what I started. And I couldn't because of injuries. And that was a start. So I'm like, man, if I could go back before this injury and maybe this doesn't happen, then maybe I'm right where I want to be. Even if I don't make it to the league, but I'm able to finish strong, because I didn't even finish strong, in college. Those last 2 years that I had were up and down because of injuries. And it was like one thing after another. But it all started with that one my junior year. So it's like, damn, if I could go back, my preparation was fine. So it's not so much my preparation, but just maybe that not happening. If that could not happen, I'd be interested on where it went.
Not taking anything away from the people who were there helping you mentally and physically going through those times. What would you say to Tony as yourself now that you needed to hear back then?
You need to work harder. It's the truth. And I worked my ass off. I really did. And I had people to push me at all levels, even when I left my dad and uncle and all that. Man, I was in college, and there was people that were pushing me to the limits. I don't think I worked hard enough. I don't. I mean, I heard Dion the other day saying, give it your all. What you need to leave something out there for? Why are you leaving it out there? Give it up. There was sometimes I gave it up and sometimes I didn't. So I wasn't consistent. I think just knowing that I gave it all I could would have gave me a better feeling looking back at it now.
You love football so much. Do you see yourself pursuing a coaching career past high school sports or anything?
I don't. I think it's too late. Too late in my career. Family started, and so that would be another big thing as far as going to another level and being able to coach. And so I think I'm happy where I'm at.
How important is the role of assistant coaches and specialty coaches on a football team?
It's just as important as the head coach. Now, the head coach is the man. He runs it. He wants it a certain way, and it's got to be done that way. But he needs assistance, right? He needs somebody just like we need somebody. And so we feed off each other. Two heads are better than one. So the more you have, the more wisdom and knowledge you have about the game, and the more people you have that knowledge around you, the better the program is going to be. And that's in all aspects, just not on the field, but organization, right? Fundraising, putting stuff together, making sure the kids have certain things, making sure they're set up on off-season programs, man. Assistant coaches and strength coaches are just as important as the head coach when it comes to, keeping that thing running. But the head coach is the one who keeps it running, and he's the head coach for a reason.
How important is education for student athletes for you?
It's very. Without that, you're not going anywhere, especially student athletes. I mean, a lot of the kids look at the sports on TV, ESPN, and all these different sports and championships and things that are being done and the skills that they're showcasing, and it's like, man, that's all fine and dandy. You're not going to be able to do that if you don't have your education. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. I don't care what type of prodigy you are. It's not happening if you don't have that education. And so you can't do one without the other. And that education is more important than the sports because that's going to take you even further in life. Sports are temporary, but what you do afterwards is going to depend on your education.
Dream football team. I need position coaches, and I need your starting 12 on offense.
I'm just going straight professional Hall of Fame guys. Let's do that. I know you got your GOATs, you got your Bradys and your Mannings and all those guys, but I grew up a Randall Cunningham fan. That's my guy. So Randall would be running the show for me at quarterback. On the outside, receivers, dang. Randy Moss, Jerry Rice, starting two. Tight end is Dan Graham. The lineman, I ain't familiar with all the line, dude. You got to get somebody else on here to know the line.
Just pick a solid line.
The Denver Broncos Super Bowl line, the back-to-back run.
Boom.
All those hogs up there. Running backs, you got to go with Barry Sanders. Behind Barry Sanders, got to go with Bo Jackson. So that's my starting 11 right there on offense.
What does Tony do to relax?
Recently work out.
Stay on it.
Hey, I'm trying to get back in shape. That's where I get my peace of mind. That's where I get away from everything and don't have to worry about school or chasing my son around or what's going on with my daughter or anything else, man. That's just like that's my thing now. It used to be other stuff, but now having that peace and quiet, working out by myself, I love that. I'm not a gamer. I mean, I do have video games, so every now and then I may cut that on. But, watching movies, dude. I mean, since I became a family man, and you sit down and watch some good movies, man, I'm good to go.
What's one of your favorite movies?
Any Given Sunday. Love it. Gladiator. Man, and they're kind of old, but, man, you can always watch them.
Who's your favorite rap MC?
Pac.
What did you listen to in the locker room to get you ready for games when you chose to listen to music in college?
There's a mixture. Pac was on everybody's headphones. Machiavelli during that time. If it wasn't Pac, man, I'm an R&B guy too. I love my R&B, so some R&B or I would throw on the gospel, especially after talking to my mom before a game or something, talking to her and her praying and getting me going. I throw on that gospel, man, get me in the mood.
Do you have a favorite gospel artist?
Man, I got a couple, and I've been listening to that more and more. Lecrae is awesome. There's a guy out of California named Bizzle who can rock the mic a little bit. Dang, who else? NF, the guy, the Eminem of gospel. Sounds just like him. Gosh, who else? There's another guy named BK. They'll be rocking the mic a little bit when it comes to gospel. So a couple of those, and then, you know, you got your old school, your Yolanda Adams, right? You got your Kirk Franklin that's still rocking the mic and getting things going. And so it's a mixture of a couple of things that I like to listen to.
If you could change anything in the world today to make the world a better place, what would that be?
Greed, man. There's too much greed in this world. Too much greed, too much money going around to not be selfless. I think if that were taken away, the greed and selfishness that's going around, I think it would make this world a better place.
If you could have a conversation with a coach, dead or alive, who would it be?
Probably my father.
Some people aren't familiar with who your father is, so make it clear again who your father is. I know, but they might not know.
Tony Lindsay Jr., born Denver, raised, Denver native. He also went to Thomas Jefferson back in the heyday. He went to the University of Utah, did not have a scholarship there, walked on. And within the first week of practice, earned a scholarship. And that's that hard work I was talking about. From there, man, just he played up there. He had me while he was up there in college, him and my mom. He's probably the most influential man in my life. And so he's a coach. He's been a coach for so long, man. And so it's just not the father perspective. It's what he does as a coach. That's inspiring, that's motivating, and the way he takes in whomever, whatever reasons, wherever they're coming from, my man is willing to accept any and everybody. Love that about him.
What does a perfect high school, fully functional football team look like to you?
Man, you got a community that cares, Q. It starts with the community. The more community involvement you have and community backing you have, man, it makes that thing go. And I'm going to refer back to Montbello back in their heyday. Even when we were playing, man, that community was off the chain. They rallied behind what they were doing at their school academically and through the sports. If you can get a community to buy into that high school and a program, everything else that come with it, right? The people that you get in there to coach, the kids that are living in that area that want to come from different areas to play, man, the community backing is so important, man.
Would you be willing to share with us on the Never Quit podcast something that you've never shared publicly ever with anybody?
It's not necessarily a bad thing because a great thing came out of it, a blessing came out of it. But having a child out of a wedlock, I regret it because of how it happened. I don't regret it because of what I got out of it, if that makes any sense to you guys listening. Beautiful, wonderful, loving, smart, athletic daughter that I got from it. But how it happened wasn't right.
What would you say to anybody that judges you that doesn't know you?
Talk to me. You want to know who I am? Talk to me. That's the only way you're gonna get to know who I am or anybody else. So before you make judgment on me because of where I'm from, because of my family, because who I hang with, get to know me.
What is a big misconception of the last name Lindsay when it comes to coaching in football?
Like I say, I'm going to refer back to what I was saying earlier. They think they're better than everybody else. It's not a better than everybody else thing. It's that we're willing to go out and take any risk we can to make the kids and people we're working with better. And if you don't like it, then, hey, don't pay attention to it. You know, you got so many people that are paying attention to what we're doing. I mean, if it's all that bad to y'all, why are y'all paying attention to what we're doing? Go do something else. As a matter of fact, go get your own damn team and program and show us how to do it. Come and play us. Come compete against us. If you got all that stuff to say, you guys go get your program, go get everything set up, and let's compete. It sounds fair to me, but like I said, man, we're about the kids. It's not about us. It's not about what we're doing. We've been there and done that, and we're trying to give what we can to the kids. And if you don't understand that, then you just don't understand.
Talk about what it's been like having a father as a coach your whole life and see him love other men that weren't his physical sons as much as he loved you guys.
I think that's what makes him the biggest influencer in my life. Just seeing him how he takes in children and kids the same way that he does his own blood. You know what I'm saying? Man, whether it's, hey, come on and stay with me. It's, hey, you got to talk to me about something. I'm here. You can call whenever you want. There's been guys that have called in the middle of the night to talk to my dad about various different things, man. And just knowing he's that type of person that can be that figure that they need whenever they need him, man, speaks volumes of the type of person he is.
What's something that sticks out in your head that you did when you were younger that you never thought will work or help you in the future in your football endeavors that your dad used to make you do?
I don't know why you're asking me this. I hate track. We all hated to run. We hated to run. And running wasn't just, well, my dad, running wasn't just sprinting, we're done. That wasn't running. He made us go beyond what we thought we would have to run. And, yeah, he was doing it out of love and to get us better. You got to understand, we're football players. We're basketball players. We didn't come to TJ to run track. But somehow, some way, he has all these football players running on that dang track.
We was a swollest.
Yeah, they're like, dang, man, look at these dudes. Are they supposed to be out here running? Y'all football players, why are y'all? And that's what some of the questions they had. Why are y'all out here? Y'all play football. I don't know. We ain't got no choice. Our coach is making us run. And to this day, even though we got good, we were good. Man, we were really good at running. We could run, even though we didn't like it. But we all knew what the result of us running on that track would be. It would be us being that much better on that football field. And you could see it year after year like, damn, these dudes are really moving around. How the hell are they moving around like this now? We're not really progressing as much, but looking at these dudes and playing against these guys, these dudes are really on it. Well, that was part of it. That was part running track, and we hated it. Until this day, you mentioned track, we don't want no parts of running. Don't want no parts of it. And then me being his son, I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't, miss a track meet and act like I slept in or something. It wasn't happening. And so no matter how bad it hurt, no matter how much we had to do it, and at the end of the day, it made us better.
Behind football, what is your second favorite sport?
Basketball.
Who was your favorite basketball player?
Man. For some reason, I like Scottie Pippen, man. I don't know what it was about Scottie Pippen back in the day. Of course, MJ was the man. I mean, who could not like MJ? Magic was sweet too. Dominique Wilkins, Barkley, that whole generation, man, that's who we watched. And so when you speak basketball, who I like to watch, it was them, man. It was them. And then even though he's a year older than I am, Chauncey. And I think it was more so because I know him. I think it was because he's from where I'm from. I think it's because what he was able to accomplish. But he's a hellified player, too. It ain't just because he's from Colorado. My man got up there and did his thing. And so watching Chauncey play, man, the opportunities I did get to see him and watch him, I loved watching him play, too.
What was your most memorable game that you played in high school?
We beat East. Gave it to them. Gave them the business at their place. Was you there yet? I think. Was that? No.
I wasn't there yet, yeah.
Oh, man, the year before you came. Yep. Went in the East. And, Rudy Carey was my gym teacher in middle school, so we had a good relationship, too. We went in the East. It was a Tuesday, Thursday night.
Who was the starting five then?
It was me, Q Savage, Atiba Collins. What's Larry's last name? Gosh.
First name's enough.
Larry and Ab was starting.
Abinay Turner.
Abinay, Tommy Ford. A couple other guys, man. We went in the East and gave them the business. Yeah, we gave. And was it that year? It may even it wasn't because we didn't do it when you was with us.
I came the next year.
Yeah, so that was a group right there. But we went in the East, man, and we put it on them. And I don't think they was expecting that. So that it was good to do that.
There's a rumor that there's a low rim at TJ. Is that true?
It used to be.
Which one was it?
Oh, let's see. It was the north end.
Mm-hmm.
The north end, the one towards the dance floor, that wall.
I used to throw you like 10-yard outs, and you just go dunk.
Oh, easy. And we had a dunk contest. That's where we was going.
Would you ever coach at Thomas Jefferson if you had the opportunity?
No.
Can I ask why?
Now I think that's personal too.
Okay.
Going back, no, I can talk about this. Just going back to, we were gone from school, but my father having the opportunity to coach there. Instead of giving him the job, them going elsewhere and the reasons why they went elsewhere. And because of that, I think that's had an effect on not just him, but all of us when it comes to TJ. Don't hate TJ. Still respect TJ, but I don't think we would ever coach there. There's been opportunities that we had, and we've passed them down, even myself. My dad has definitely said no. I'll never go. I don't care who's there. I don't care who the principal is. I don't care who the athletic director is. After what happened, he's just kind of just done with it. And we're like, well, we'll follow suit. You know, can I say that I will never? No. But as of right now, I mean, I wouldn't.
What has been the most difficult thing being a coach in the DPS?
I want to say lack of resources again, which is funny because we are the biggest district in Colorado. And so you think we're the biggest district, we have the most kids. We're bringing in the most funding for the kids. How come our athletic programs don't have the resources that some of the smaller districts have? Why? That's always been a question, and it's always been a problem since we played. How come we don't have what the suburban districts have? So to this day, you know, they have their excuses why, but it's not fair. And because of it, we lose out on, I guess, we can't compete as much because of the resources we have. Not to say we don't have talent. We have all the talent in the world. But sometimes you need more talent. We talked about that earlier. I mean, there's things you can do to make yourself better, but if you don't have those things, then how can you compete with those that do? So I just think the lack of resources and equipment and that needs to change. And I'm not asking them to spend $1 billion, but I'm asking them to do right by the kids that have to wear the equipment, that use the equipment, that need the equipment, that need the resources. Make it about the kids, not about coaches complaining that they don't have anything. Well, there's a reason we're complaining. We want them to be on equal ground as everybody else. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that.
Besides money, it sounds like financially making it fair for everybody, right? What is the other fix to it?
Politics. Political. And I think that's every district. It's so political, man. I'm not a political person either. I hate getting into it. But I think it's getting to a point where it's affecting everything that has to be done in the district, academically and athletically.
What would you say are 3 exercises that you would encourage an up-and-coming quarterback to do alone without a coach?
Agility drills on a ladder. Accuracy. Any type of drill throwing the ball where you have to be accurate. And when I mean accurate, that's just not throwing to the spot where the receiver is going to be. It's actually throwing your receiver into the spot. So, I mean, I know nowadays with the high schoolers, and you do have your little coaches now that work with them on it. But back when we were growing up, and even with the guys we have out with us on the team, if they don't have these personal coaches that they go to and they don't have anybody that knows, when you're playing football is not always about hitting the guy that's open. It's about throwing him into a spot and being accurate in that way, knowing how to throw him in between the backers and not just try to throw when he gets there because it's too late. These guys are too fast now, even in high school. And so some type of accuracy drill where they're not throwing directly to the receivers, but throwing them into the spot they want them to be. Understand what I'm saying?
Like leading them.
Just leading them, yeah. That's such a big part of the game. And as you get older and you go through the higher levels, that's what it's about. These dudes are bigger, they're faster, they're stronger, man. It's ridiculous. And just to look at some of these high school kids now and compare them to how we were, it's not fair. And I'm trying to figure out what the hell they eating. What are they eating to like get this big and this fast and be this talented? But it's great to see, but you got to work on your craft. So footwork, accuracy, and then just being in shape. Being in shape, work out, get your body right, eat right. That's such a big part of what they do too now. Just making sure you're on your stuff. I mean, because there's always somebody out there working harder than you. They may be less talented, but there's somebody that's working their ass off. And if you don't watch out, they're going to jump right over you. You're going to try to figure out what's happening. And so work ethic, do those drills, really craft your skills that you need and go with it.
How do you feel about student athletes getting paid now?
I wish we did.
Who you telling?
In a way, some of them deserve it. I think it's too much. And I'm going to quote Dion again. How can you get paid and you ain't did nothing to get paid? You ain't did it. How can you get paid but you ain't went out there and did enough to get paid? That's what professionals do. When you get to that level, then you get paid. But if you ain't did enough to get paid, then why are you trying to get all these deals? I mean, you're still a kid. I don't mind them getting money. They should get money anyway. They should, because they need it. We needed it. And all it's going to do is help them. But these deals are like they're already professionals, and they're not. They're not. They don't even compare. And then you don't know how they handle the money either. So I'm going to say, if you're getting that money, learn how to handle that money. But it's much deserving. If they deserve what they get, then heck yeah, get it. But learn what to do with it too, because in the long run, you could waste all that money you're getting.
How do you feel about female football?
It's interesting. You know what? It's competitive. I don't care who's playing, little kids, females. I mean, if they're playing the sport right, then they're playing it. I don't mind watching it. I don't think they got to be in the skimpy stuff. I mean, it's nice to see and to watch, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they need to go that far in publicizing the sport. I mean, it's football. Let them play football. But I don't have any problem with it at all. I mean, I would sit and watch a game. I watched a couple on TV, not because of what they're wearing, but because of what they're doing. And it's pretty exciting, man. Them girls be tagging each other. There's no hold bar. It's really not. But then you can also see those girls that are learning those skills. You know what I'm saying? It's not just like they just out there running around tackling half naked. These girls is running routes. They're running plays. They're blocking. So it's like, man, it's really cool to see them do these different things playing the game. So, I mean, I have no problems with it at all.
What's your favorite old school car?
It's Cadillac Seville. I want to say 78 maybe, late 70s, somewhere in there.
If you could go anywhere in the world with your wife for a week, where would you go?
You know what? We went to Athens, Greece on our honeymoon, but it was just a cruise. And so we just kind of stopped through for a day or so. I would love to go back there. Awesome place, a lot of stuff to see, a lot of stuff to do. We just didn't have enough time to do it. So if anywhere we can go, I'd probably say Athens, Greece.
What's the worst place that you've traveled to?
Oh, the worst place. Dang. And I'm going to say it was here, too. Maybe it was Idaho Springs. Mm-hmm. Oh, man, we thought it was a nice little lodge getaway. It was a lodge runaway. Oh, it was bad, man. And, you know, they were supposed to have a nice little spa where you get all this stuff. And I never did a mud bath or nothing like that. Cute. My wife was like, let's go do a mud bath. All right. So we walk in there. I'm expecting to walk into a nice little elegant place. And, man, it was like a baby swimming pool. And, yeah, and Q had dirt and mud water in there. And I said, well, what are we supposed to do to this? Asking the woman that works there. She said, yeah, you just kind of step in a little pool and you take the mud and you rub it on yourself. And then you go rinse it off. It was really bad, man. It was just promoted bad. We thought we were going to have a nice little getaway for the weekend, just right down the way in the mountains, and it didn't end up that way.
If you could bring back 3 people who are no longer with us on earth right now, who would you bring back?
Coach Herman Moats. He was a football coach. Well, I think he coached a couple things at TJ. That was one guy that I've heard my dad talk about on many occasions. They coached him not only when he was in high school, but junior high. But just hearing what type of person he was, and I got to meet him, but it was the older him. It wasn't the version that my dad was talking about. Coach Moats, I would love to sit down and talk with him and meet him. Let's see who else. Ben Gregory, who was a coach at Montbello before he moved on to CU. Heard so many things about him in that time where Montbello was cream of the crop. And he actually took, some of his teams to the championship game, but they never pulled it out. But just to hear some of the things that were said about that guy too, were pretty amazing. So and that's funny because those are two Denver high school coaches. You know what I'm saying? I didn't go NFL or college, but those two. And you know who else who's still alive though? I would like to talk to Coach McCartney. You know what I'm saying? Just talk to him and see just his way of thinking because he was a smart guy. And I look at how he conducted himself and carried himself as a Christian too, and keeping that faith while he was there and dealing with so much, and to see like those different stories about the teams and about him, it's like, man, I would really want to talk to him and see, what he was thinking around those times too. And he's alive still, but I mean that would be a person I would throw in there.
Before we wrap this up, I know it'll seem like boasting, but I want you to give a long line of history of all the men who've played football in your family and what level they made it to.
So my dad's the oldest. Like I said, he went to Thomas Jefferson, went on to University of Utah on a full ride scholarship, and he played there. Matter of fact, he still has a couple records up there too, if I'm not mistaken. And then my uncle Troy Lindsay, who went to CSU, and actually got to play against my dad one of the years. But he was a running back at CSU. My dad was a running back at University of Utah, so two running backs. And then it went down to me, quarterback at Oklahoma State. Also went to TJ, so there's TJ still in that lineage. Then from me, it went down to my little brother Gabe Lindsay, who played running back in high school. Went to Oklahoma State with me. Started at running back. They converted him to a defensive back and then ended up as my wide receiver, which he was my senior year at TJ. So Gabe was with me at Oklahoma State. From Gabe, it went to Matt Lindsay, who was my next youngest brother, who got a full ride scholarship to Nebraska Omaha. He played running back and linebacker up there. And then my youngest, Dom, he didn't get as far as what we did, but Dom was in the picture. He still was playing at TJ. After Dom, I got a group of cousins, all my uncle's sons, that played, starting with Philip Lindsay. Most of you guys know that, right? Our hometown hero who made it. Who made it, man? I mentioned so many different names before him, and one of us had to make it, and he made it. And we're so proud of him. And he's still playing. He's still trying to play. And so Philip Lindsay, who also played running back, he has a younger brother named Zach Lindsay, who went to Northern Colorado up in Greeley. He played running back there. And they had another brother named Marcus Lindsay, who went on to play at CSU Pueblo, and he had a full ride there. So there's the boys. There's one more, and that's my son, but he's still got a while to go. He's only 5. And then we had a couple girls that also were athletes and went D1. My uncle's oldest daughter, Sparkle Lindsay, played basketball at the University of Mesa up in Grand Junction. And then his younger daughter, Cherie, played volleyball at Prairie View A&M. She happens to, she just got the job there too. She's the head coach at Prairie View A&M. So there's a kind of background and lineage of the Lindsays.
If you could use one word to describe the Lindsay family, what would that be?
Perseverance. No matter what, we keep on driving and driving and driving. And, man, we don't care what anybody else has to say.
From all the coaches that you named, give me one thing that you would take away from each one of them.
As far as my dad, just the way he is with, Gabe and my dad are alike. They're like twins when it comes to the personality, the type of characters they are, what they bring to the table. And so I'm going to just combine them two. They got the gift of gab. If you guys have ever talked to them two, they can talk. They can talk. They can hold a conversation with any and everybody about any and everything, and it goes smoothly. I mean, they're very extrovert, but it's in a good way. And they're really good on the field with the kids on getting their point across too. one way or another. Matt, his tenacity about being a student of the game. Oh, he's our defensive coordinator there at Far Northeast. But just the way he goes about the organization, the techniques, where they need to be, when they need to be. And so he's a student of the game. I would take that from him. And then Dom is just Dom. He helps out and does whatever he can, what he can, with whoever he has. And so just being willing, being flexible, I would take that from Dom.
If there is a relatable thing, what is it that you see in your wife that reminds you of your mother?
She loves the Lord. Man, big time. My mom and family, both sides of my family, very religious, man, very religious. But they love the Lord, man. Always speaking about the Lord, speaking on the Lord, praying, keeping me grounded. If anybody can keep me grounded, it's those two. And so there's so many different similarities I see in my mom and my wife, which is probably why she's my wife. But there's a lot. But I would say that's what stands out the most.
What is the worst thing that you've seen in your life thus far living?
I think, like, as far as, like, right in front of me, something happening, luckily I ain't seen anything that's been, like, really bad. Now, the things that I've seen that were really bad were, like, things I've seen maybe on TV or something like that. But just, like, right in front of me, I don't think I've seen anything that's been like, man, I'll never forget that. You know what I'm saying? I've seen dead bodies on the ground, but it's not like they were all mutilated or something like that. I would say that would be the worst thing, but and knock on wood, I don't want to see anything bad. But that would be the worst if there's been anything I've seen.
What was the worst football injury that you saw physically with your own eyes?
Ooh, been a couple broken femurs, man. Tackling drills, hip tossing each other, which is really bad. Them landing the wrong way, leg going backwards and hearing a snap. In some cases, you could see where the bone had kind of pushed out the pad. I would say those, man. I've seen like 3 or 4 of those, and it's been like, ugh. I've seen an ankle dislocation, plenty of broken fingers. But the broken femurs take the cake right there.
Okay, before we wrap it up, tell the people where you're at currently now in football and coaching, etc.
And that's a situation we can talk about on its own. So we are in our final year as the Far Northeast Warriors, which was a regional program in Montbello that was started because they shut down Montbello High School. So when they shut it down, they just said, you know what, everybody that goes to these schools within Montbello and the Green Valley Ranch area, you are all play football for this regional program, which is called the Far Northeast. And this is the 6th year now. For the previous 5 years, I mean, that was what it was going to be. And then they decided to reopen Montbello. Re-image it. It is open as of this year. They are using that same building, but that building it'll look quite different come next school year because they're doing a lot of re-imaging there. But since they're bringing back the Montbello program, which is what we wanted that a long time ago and fought for that. For some reason, we couldn't get it. Finally, they did what they had to do. Now that school's coming back, but as we're transitioning over, we're thinking that, hey, we are coaching the Far Northeast program. We're just going to transition over to Montbello again, and we're going to keep this thing going. And we're going to have the school back. Maybe we can get all the community back on board and do the thing. In that process, they got to hire a new principal for the school and new administration and coaches. It is a new school, so it's open to whoever wants to come and coach. And so we're thinking as a formality, they're just going to hire my father, right? He's already been there. He's a staple in the community. He's started this program. We're building it up. Hell, we won a state championship during the COVID year. And there was a championship for the fall, championship for the spring. We didn't get to play in the fall because of COVID. So we played in the spring, and a lot of people put a asterisk on our championship. Championship is a championship. And we had a hellified team. And we were willing to play anybody that wanted to play us. Didn't matter. So, but we ended up winning that state championship. And because of that, we brought in a nice group of kids. And so the program is going to transition. We have one more year as the Far Northeast Warriors, and then that program will be no more, which means we will be no more because they hired a different coach from Montbello. And so, I mean, that's where we are right now. We'll see what happens when the program is over, but right now we're just worried about this year and finishing this year off strong with the kids that we have, and then moving on from there, wherever God takes us.
I hope you've enjoyed your time like I have with Tony Lindsay here in the studio on another episode of the Never Quit podcast. Stay tuned, subscribe, and thank you for watching. Peace.